Well, welcome back to another session of 6th grade painting class. To briefly review, we're going to continue on our project here today, and we're already done we've got 40 shapes in here. We've done our primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, our secondary colors where we mix them together, thus creating violet, orange, and regular green. And then yesterday we did our 6 tertiary colors, which are red, violet, blue, violet, yellow orange, red orange, yellow green, and blue green. So today we're going to move up to this corner and we're going to do a tinting scale, at least to get started. We may even get through the shading scale. What you're going to need this time is one card, or one area of, like a paper plate might work too, with just red on it, and another index card that will have white on it. And that will all be explained what we're going to do with that here in a few minutes. So I'm just going to set that off to the side for right now. Now, a tinting scale is merely the idea, and in our lecture I discussed tinting with you, is how we lighten a color by reflecting more light back. When we use white paint, or we paint on a white surface, it automatically lightens or brightens that color. So tinting in painting is not like tinted windows in a car, which are darker, but tinting in painting is when you lighten a color by using white. We're going to use red today, and we're going to put white into it, and it's going to change its color. So for instance, pink is not a color, it's not on the color wheel. Pink is a tint of red, because it is red with white mixed into it. Okay, now, so that's how it works. We're going to do, I believe, 5 steps here. And the first thing we're going to do is make sure that your brush is clean and dry. And then when you've achieved that, we're going to pick up some red, because the first step of our tinting scale will always be a pure color. I've got to remove this little scrap of tape right there, which is already confounding me. There we go. And I'll tape it back down. Okay, so we're going to, up in the upper left corner here, we're going to paint that entire red curved area in that people perceive as the sun more than anything. And then we're going to move on from there. So, making sure that your paintbrush is clean and dry. If you are in a group lesson, and if we are in the physical classroom, you are in a group lesson, and so other people will be using the paintbrush that you're using. Furthermore, other people will be using the paint that we are using right now. So you can't slime that paint all together. It's got to be kept pretty clean. Now, this might be a little difficult to do today because of the fact that we're going to be mixing these colors together, and we might just have to, if we can keep the red pure, then we'll see what we can do with that. Okay, so I'm making pretty good progress. I would like for you to paint good, not necessarily fast. I can paint pretty fast. However, I've done this project a couple of times, and I think I understand it. There's times when I wonder if I understand anything. Okay, let's move on over here. You can turn your painting around if you need to get a good angle on it. I really can't do that because my painting has to be in the same position all the time in order, whoa, I'm wobbling the camera there, in order for us to be able to see the video. Okay, so I'm just simply going to go back and I'm going to address areas of opacity that I might have missed. Try to get a nice smooth finish, uniform on there, so the uniform finish, so it all looks like it was applied by the same artist instead of like by 10 different people. Okay, now that looks pretty good. Now we're going to start our tinting scale now. So we're going to need this card that's got red on it, and down here we've got this card that's got white on it. Now we are only going to transfer the white onto the red card. Here, let me move this over here so it makes a little bit more logical sense. Okay, even though I'm covering up the lower right hand corner of our drawing. So we're only going to mix the white into the red. That's all we're going to do. So you need to make sure, first of all, that the brush is clean. Anytime we change or transfer colors. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove my paintbrush there. Okay, so here's what we got to do. We're going to take one big scoop of that white and we're going to place it into our puddle of red. And we're going to stir it up carefully. It all needs to be stirred into that red. Now, if you don't notice a color change, we may have to add a little bit more white. Now, I've got white all over the brush, and see, it's all up the handle and stuff, so there's a good, we'll definitely have to clean this brush out that we're mixing paint with prior to painting anything on it. It'll just be so clogged with paint it won't really do anything. Okay, so now, we just barely changed that color, but it is noticeably different. I got to clean out my brush. Okay, now I'm going to take that slightly lighter red and I'm going to place it in another area. And that area is going to be right here. So we're going to take some of the red and we're going to paint in this area with it. Actually, it's not red, it's very dark pink, actually. So, and if you didn't notice a color change, and I did, so I'm leaving mine alone, but if you didn't notice a color change, you need to add some more white. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'll just continue on. Try to make steady marks with the paintbrush. If you struggle a little bit, simply hold your breath. Turn your painting upside down if you need to. I'm standing up right now on the other side of the painting. But I think I'm going to be fine. Okay. Now the white sometimes has a material in it called titanium dioxide. And titanium dioxide makes great, beautiful white paint, but it kind of does something. It chalks it up a little bit, which means it kind of takes any gloss it may have off of it. Kind of flattens it or gives it a matte finish. But it does make for some really nice white color. Okay. Progress is being made. I got to make sure I don't lay my hand in wet paint. Alright. So I hope you're keeping up with the video here. I hope we're all learning something with this painting project, and especially with this technique of doing it. I've never really kind of taught it this way before until recently, and then teaching it this way is a whole new experience. I feel like I need to talk like I would in the regular physical classroom to the students while we're making the project, but there's nobody out there asking me questions right now, although you could email me if you have questions about this at my school email. A lot of people have been doing that. Okay, so now we've got red, what appears to be still pretty dark red, but is slightly lighter, and it will brighten when it dries. So I'm going to rinse out my brush, and this time I'm going to take 2 scoops of the white, and I'm going to put it into my slightly dark, slightly lighter red. So I'm going to go 1 scoop, or 2 scoops. I should have cleaned out my brush. Okay, let's stir it around. This will be step number 3 of our tinting scale. Okay, now you should notice that it's getting noticeably lighter, kind of a carnation pink right now. Okay, so we want all those strands of white mixed in there so that we have one uniform color of pink. Kind of a carnation pink right now. I've got to clean my brush. This usually results in some pretty soggy brushes there. And now I'm going to take my carnation pink and I'm going to paint it on this side of the pyramid. And you should, if you're not noticing a color change, then put another dip of white into the pink. but I'm noticing a color change. Now I'm going to simply keep this on that side of my pyramid, because I'm going to remix again for the other side of the pyramid. Okay, let's see, there we go. So it should be getting noticeably lighter with each step. Okay, so you gotta work good, but sometimes you gotta work quickly too. Time is one of those resources we just can't order more of up. You know, we've got to make good work with the time we've got together, and in this case, that would be during our class time. In the physical classroom, of course, it's a little different, but in here we still only got limited time, so we have to keep track of that anyway, even with the e-learning. Okay, so I've gone pure red, slightly lighter again. So let's take this time, we're going to put 3 scoops of the white in there. Wow, I'm going to clean that mess off. And then another one. And then another one. Okay, and let's see what happens there. It should get lighter again. We want to get all of this into the same puddle so we don't have any odd changes in our color. So we're going to swirl it all together. Come on, get in there. Get on the playground. Okay. Okay, very good. Let's move that around a little bit more. Okay, very good. Now I'm going to take that paint. I'm going to obviously have to clean my brush off because it's all gummy. And I'm going to go on the other side of the pyramid with that for step 4, and that should make a noticeably lighter color. So let's take the lighter pink, and we're going to put it right here, and that does make a noticeably lighter color. If you're not noticing it's getting any lighter, then you need to put more white in it. Your idea of what one dip of white and mine is might be different. Well, don't want to get too crazy here. Alright, nice control right down the edge of the pyramid there. Okay, same. There we go. Okay. So you just got to stay focused. That is, I guess, if there's anything that people need to know about art, about life in general, because art kind of imitates life, strangely, is that you just got to stay focused. You can't really let things distract you. Okay, sometimes all you can do is just listen to the sound of the paint being made. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we go red, lighter red, lighter red, lighter red, and we're going to do this one more time. And in this case, we're going to put 4 or 5 big old scoops of this white into our already existing puddle of pink. I'm going to go with just a bunch of it, and we're going to swirl that around. We want to get a very light colored pink now. If we can make that happen. Oh, that is very light colored pink right there, kind of a salmon color. So I'm going to go with it. Since it looks pretty good, I'm going to have to definitely clean my paintbrush off here. It is filthy. And then, bumping the camera. That's not good. Okay, so we're going to take that very, very light pink, and it's going to go on this side of the pyramid where the sun would be shining on it. So it should be, make some sense that it would be that bright, the brighter side. Now there's a reason I didn't use this side, because we need that for an additional, at some point in time in the future on this project we'll need to approach the painting from that side, and there has to be some spaces left over in there so it looks good. And it also achieves its educational mission, which is to teach you what triads are, which by the way are 3 colors that form a triangle. Color wheel. There we go. Okay, we need some more of it. Okay, so let's see. When we get done with this, we're going to start something else, and that's going to be a shading scale. Now, a shading scale, if a tinting scale is where we brighten a color using white, then it stands to logically reason that a shading scale is darkening a color by using black. So that's where we're going to be going with the next portion of this. We'll get this part done. Now this is going relatively quickly because of the fact that we are doing this e-lesson style. And you can, if you're struggling, you can slow it down, you can stop the video, you can pause, you can replay it if you gotta. But in the physical classroom, it goes a little less quickly. And we've got to pace the class so that everybody can keep up with it. Okay, that's a pretty good looking tinting scale. So I'm going to now have to thoroughly clean out my brush completely, okay? And then I'm going to have to discard my red and my white paint. Now in the physical classroom, we would wait until the end of the period to get rid of this. But in this lesson, which is a video lesson, we are going to get rid of it right away. Okay, so look what we've got so far. We've got primaries, secondaries, tertiaries, and a tinting scale. So now we can move on to the next step, which is a shading scale. And a shading scale is when we use black paint to darken a color. That's what the practice of shading is. And if I can get my black paint open here, I'd be so thrilled. Okay, so we're going to put just it only takes a tiny amount of black paint to do this. So I'm going to put that tiny amount of black paint on there. And then we're also going to switch over to a different color for our scale, and in this case that color is going to be blue, because we're only using red, white, blue, red, white, yellow, black, and blue. Yes. So I'm going to use the same index card for this, but if you were in the physical classroom you would have 2 index cards for this. So we've got the black, which you only need a little bit of, and we're going to have, enough blue to do the job 5 times over. Just like we just did with the white, we are using black and blue in this case. So let's get to going here on the shading scale. So the opposite of tinting, which is when you reflect more light back at the viewer because you are lightening the colors with white, it stands logically to reason that the opposite is true with shading. Shading absorbs the light and therefore causes the color to look darker. Now if you were painting on a black surface, you would also probably notice this phenomenon as well. That the shading, the black surface, which would be the shading agent, darkens the color as soon as it's put on. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick out 5 steps, and we're going to get going on that. And just like here, we started with the pure color of the left-hand corner. We're going to start with pure color in the cloud right here. And this is going to be the first step of our shading scale. And it looks like we've got just enough time to finish maybe this, and that would be crazy production, ladies and gentlemen. 10 steps in one day, or 10 shapes in one day. And that is quite an achievement. It has been done in the physical classroom numerous times, but it has to be in a class that really is focused as a group. And that will happen periodically, but never regularly. How does that sound? Okay, so I'm going to have to move around the painting a bit, because I really can't move the painting. I have to be very careful not to put my hand in wet paint. Alright, straight down that line, into the sharp fin, if you can make that happen. And we're just going to keep working around until we get a nice opaque finish on our paint. And we gotta be very careful. Painting is inherently messy business. So you need to be doing this. You probably shouldn't be doing this in the living room on the white carpet, right? You should probably be doing this somewhere else, like a laundry room or out on a picnic table or something. Okay, project is looking good. Same over here. We're going to mix in that paint. Carefully move it with just the point of the brush. As soon as I say that, I have control problems. Okay, same thing again. Move that paint around. Okay, we're looking like we've got plenty going on here in this class. This is, in this series, the 105th video that has been produced in the e-learning series that I've done here. So, those of you that like this, watch all the other videos eventually. And this will be implemented into the regular classroom as part of our blended learning goals. So, bringing some technology and some old school, just, guided, mediated learning experience as well. Okay, I'm going to have to let that set up for a minute. It's a little bit runny, it looks like, but it could be because my brush is wet still. And that experience with the white paint can sometimes really leave your brush soggy. And that's why it's important to dry it out completely. So I'm going to let that dry for a moment while I do rinse out my brush and dry it completely, so we can take on the next step. And that should be quite simplistic here, I'm hoping. So let me make sure my brush is clean. And what we're going to do now is we're going to, and I'm going to put this where you can see it, we are only going to use tiny dots of black. You can always put more black in it. You probably just can't take it out. Okay, and then trying to put more blue in it, that just doesn't really work properly. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take just the tip of my brush, see, about that much black, and I'm going to put it into that blue, and I'm going to stir it, and it should get slightly darker. Now if you don't notice that, take a little bit more of the black, maybe that much, but you can always add it in a little at a time. But if you go really crazy, you won't be able to change the color again. Okay, it looks like that is slightly darker, but I'm going to take just another little dot of black, not much at all, and I think this ought to do it. Okay, now that has changed the color. I can see it myself, but it's not real easy to see, I'm sure, on the computer, or on the computer screen, on the camera. So I can see that that is just slightly darker, and it only took 3 little dots to make that happen. Okay, so in this case, I've got to clean out my brush and really dry it. And then I'm going to pick up my slightly darker blue, and I'm going to place it in right here. don't know if you notice it, but I can tell that it's darker. And if you were right here in the room with me looking at this, you could tell too. So it kind of, that blue has been deadened. When you use black paint, you deaden the intensity or kill the intensity of your colors. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, bright colors are good, but I mean, making a painting of any sort requires lots of different types of colors, whether you like them or not. And so darkening something with black may deaden its intensity, but it doesn't, you know, take away from the color's beauty, especially if it's used properly in a good painting. Okay, so this is a lot like the first step in the tinting scale that we just did a few minutes ago. It just simply is a long process, and the very first step always is just slightly different than the subject color. So it was blue, now it's just slightly lighter blue. Excuse me, darker blue. I'm sorry, what am I talking about? Looking right at it. Okay. Now we're just going to continue this through 5 more steps. Okay. Now it's important that we do good work, not necessarily rapid work. So if you're struggling to keep up, just turn, you know, pause the camera, pause the video. Okay, so it's blue and slightly darker blue, even though you may not be able to tell it from where you're at. I'm going to continue to kind of dress this up a bit. There we go. Now I'm getting some opacity. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to probably just have to leave it alone because I keep monkeying with it and it doesn't necessarily make it better sometimes. Just like that one. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to take another small amount of black. We can always add more, and we're going to put it in there and we're going to stir it in. And then it should get darker, and if it doesn't, get another dip of black and put it in there. It should get darker. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. It's starting to turn into like a bluish gray color. So let's take a good look at it there. So now I'm just going to be working in this one little dark area from here on out. I'm not going to try to include any more of my lighter blue there. I'm going to have to clean that off. And I can tell that it is darker blue. It usually does in that second step start getting this way. So we're going to take that darker blue and we're going to place it right here. I got to make sure that I'm not putting my hand in wet paint. Now this is significantly darker. You can definitely tell. Alright, let's see what we got going here. Colors also have what we call emotional content as well. So, you know, like the colors red is the color for passion and love, and then yellow is generally thought of as the color of fear, and green is the color of jealousy and envy, and blue is the color of sadness, and let's see, pink is the color of like warmth and friendship. That's what else? We got white is color of purity. Alright, so colors and symbols, you put them together and you can get some interesting communications. Alright, this is coming along. But I've got some tricky work to do in here. Alright. Alright, so this is looking pretty good so far. Hope you're succeeding at the same rate that I am. See, that is significantly darker. It shows up very dark on the projection screen. And that's a good thing. Okay, into the shark fin here. Alright. But it's all these teeny little portions that you have to carefully paint around that are the hard parts in some of this. Even though this is a simple painting, the actual painting of the painting is difficult. Okay, so we're making steady progress. Just got to stay focused, long attention spans, sustained concentration. That's what we're trying to do here in art class. We're building sustained mental focus. Okay, we're making sustained progress as well. So this blue, pardon me, it's looking darker simply because the black paint that's in it is soaking up more light, absorbing more light. And that's why it appears to be darker. So the more light you absorb, if you absorbed 100% of the light, what you would have, what you would perceive or see would be blackness. So that's where there is no light, at least in the vision system that humans are gifted with. So when we can't see any light, or there is no light being given off, we experience blackness or darkness. Okay, let's try to get that tiny little space in there. Got shaky control, I gotta hold my breath. Okay, there we go. The wet paint is also glossy right here in the studio, so it's a little bit difficult to see clearly sometimes. It's getting reflections off of it while the paint is still wet. It makes it a little difficult to see precisely what I'm doing. Yeah, but I'm seeing it. Okay. Gotta look at the projection screen and sometimes try to paint that way instead of looking at the actual painting. Okay, very good. Let's step back here, see what we've got. Looks pretty good. Okay, so we're going to add some more black to it and make it even darker. I'm going to go back and touch up some of the areas of this that are kind of messing with me a bit. Alright. So it takes just a really light touch with the brush a lot of times to, smooth out your markings so they're a little more attractive and even. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to have to rinse out because my brush is getting really clogged up. And we're going to take another dip of black. We're through 3 of these, so we only got to go 2 more. And so let's take a pretty generous scoop of it this time, something like this, and mix it in here, and it should get darker, really dark, like navy blue. Alright, that is getting dark. Okay, and it's significantly darker than the previous color, so that's also good. So I'm just trying to visually get it to get darker gradually, not in huge leaps and bounds. Okay. Now I'm going to wipe out my brush because it's clogged up with paint, and I'm going to place this one above the heart over here, and then we'll go to the last color right there. So let's put this one right here. Oh, that's a very nice color, almost a gray. That's good. I've got to make sure I don't lay my hand in any paint. It's bad for your painting. Usually don't notice it until you pick up your hand and you've already smudged paint into another portion of the painting. And that's kind of, people don't like that. those unpleasant surprises like that. Okay, now this one is just going to have to be some steady painting right here. Alright, that's 9 shapes so far today. And I think we're going to get in the 10th one. If I can just carefully, I've got to just be so careful. Alright, we're on to the very, very last little step of this for the day. That is much darker. Well, it's got some light spots in it that I want to address. Alright. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we're going to take one major scoop of this. I'm going to put it in there, stir it around, and this should give us something that's almost black, just barely noticeable as blue. Very, very dark. And that is very, very dark. I'm going to wipe out my brush because my brush is filthy and it needs to be cleaned off. And I'm going to take that very, very dark. I may even take a little bit more black and put it in there. Oh yeah. Okay. And that very, very dark blue now is going to go in this place right here. Okay. The part is sad. That's very dark blue. Almost black. So black, oh, there we go. And that was convenient that it's just at the end of this requirement. So I'm going to finish this out. And then when we come back in the next session, we're going to start some color families, color schemes, which are recipes that we use to make paintings with. And so we'll be working with opposite colors in our next session, which are called complements. And then we will do some other painting tricks and apply some of our knowledge that we have acquired from making this project and the lecture and the discussion and the video. We're going to be fine. Ooh, that looks good. Okay, very good. Very good. Let's see what we got. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to say that we've gone primaries, secondaries, tertiaries, tinting scale, shading scale. So we're going to go complements next time we're together. So have a good day. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Goodbye.